Starting off with your paper portrait, tall like a building, you're going to find the bottom right corner and with a Sharpie, write your name. When you're finished with your Sharpie, make sure you return it back home in the basket because we are finished using it. For our value painting today, we're going to first start off with our paintbrush. Make sure we always use our paintbrush like a ballerina dancing on their tippy toes. They never scoot, scoot, scoot on their bum. That's a funny looking ballerina. Today, our paint colors are a little bit limited. That means we don't have as many colors as we usually do. We have two cool colors like blue and purple, and we also have a white paint, and that's going to help us get our tint today using value. You will also have your water bucket, of course, and if you are an art expert today, then you are in charge of making sure that your water is clean. And if it gets too dirty, make sure you take it to the sink, carefully pour it out, fill it back up halfway, and put it back in your basket. So, art experts, make sure you're ready to help today. First, we're going to dip our brush into the white paint. When you dip your brush, always make sure you wipe because you don't want too much paint. Now you may start to paint your white circle near the right top portion of your paper or the left or the middle, it's up to you. I'm going to pick the top right corner and I'm going to paint a pretty large white circle. Spreading that paint, make sure we don't have any icky, sticky white boogers of paint. If you see a booger, spread it out with your brush. Now notice I'm kind of painting in the direction of a circle to spread that paint. And even though we're putting white on the paper and we can't see it that well, when we put our cool color on top, we're really gonna see it. Now, you don't want to paint this part too slow because we need our white paint to mix with our cool color. If we paint too slow, it's not going to mix. So work kind of quickly today. Next, I'm going to wash out my brush carefully. And remember, our paints don't really like water in the paint itself. So when you're done washing it out, make sure you dry off your brush on the towel. Now I'm going to choose one cool color, which is going to be blue. And remember, you want to work kind of fast because our white paint is already starting to dry. Now close to your white circle, you're going to start painting around, and I'm still painting in a circular direction. If I paint side to side, it's not going to give us the effect that we're trying to create. Now slowly I'm going to bring that blue into the center, and you're going to see that we have made a tint. Now, if there's a little bit of white on your paintbrush, it's okay. I'm gonna dip my brush back into the blue, and now my job is just to keep on spreading my blue paint until I have filled my background. Now, little tip, if the paint isn't really spreading, you can actually take a little bit of water, just a tiny bit, and you can put over the paint, and it's gonna smooth out real nice and silky. So if your paintbrush is dragging, take a little bit of water and just spread it out. So today when we're painting, we're really not using a lot of paint. We're using a little bit and just continuing to use that water and spreading out that paint. If you see that your name is being covered, kind of use some water, spread it out again so that we can see our awesome name. Now keep in mind, it's really important that we use our messy mat today because we need to paint all the way to the edge, and instead of getting it on the table, we are getting it on our messy mat. Now if you accidentally cover up your tint, which is supposed to be your lighter color, you can always wash out your brush, dry it off, get a little bit more white paint, and you can put it back on top and blend it together to get that tint back. When you're finished painting, go ahead with 2 hands, bring your artwork to the drying rack. Notice how I did not turn it in landscape, but I turned it in portrait so that it won't fall down. When you are finished painting your background, take your dirty brush to the bucket in the sink by the yellow table. After you have turned in your painting to the drying rack, you're gonna do some shopping at the paper store. The paper store is located right at the front of our studio by the smartboard. And to shop today, you're gonna need some imaginary money. So bring your imaginary money to the imaginary bucket. It's gonna make a sound like cha-ching when you turn it in. And you're going to need to grab 1 piece of white paper. When you get your white piece of paper, make sure you write your name on the back and flip it back over, and we no longer want to see our name. This is going to be the side where we paint our birch trees. With my paper, I'm going to make sure it's turned portrait, tall like a building. And next we're gonna use a cardboard scrap. Now we're going to be using the edges or the sides of our cardboard scrap, not the flat surface. We don't want the flat part, we want the edge. Now taking the edge of my cardboard scrap, I'm going to gently tap it inside my paint, and I don't want too much paint for our texture technique. So I'm gonna kind of tap off the excess paint, the paint that we don't want too much of. Now with the painted edge, I'm going to drag the cardboard across my white paper. Now I'm going to drag to the right, and then I'm gonna drag the opposite direction. And you can see I'm using some pressure. Now I'm trying to use all the paint off of my cardboard edge. When I see that there's no more paint, I'm going to redip the edge of my cardboard and repeat the same steps. You can go in the opposite direction. You can even overlap some of the textures. When you are finished with your texture for your birch trees, please place the cardboard scrap back onto the plate for the next person to use. You're going to carefully take your painted birch trees to the drying rack.